In a world of genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropists, super soldiers, and magic users, it is the gods of the MCU that impress me the most. Whether it's the god of thunder Thor, Loki the god of mischief, or even the long-imprisoned goddess of death, Hela. From smacking around her brother to completely bodying the Valkyries, there's no shortage of feats for us to look at in order to answer the question, how strong is the MCU Hela? The moment her father passed, Hela arrived at the site ready to create conflict. This included completely removing Loki from the fight and putting away Thor in a short amount of time. Doing so is no small feat, as Thor is no slouch. Even before he entered his awakened state, he could endure massive explosions. This includes the incredible blast he stood at the epicenter of when Sokovia blew up. A blast worth nearly 67 megatons of TNT, large enough to blow away a medium-sized city. But beating a guy like Thor doesn't just mean landing blows on him over and over again. It also means dealing with his might. Before his awakening, he could deal with the Hulk, who could punch with 2,000 tons of force and lift the great wolf Fenris. At the size Fenris is, compared to the average female wolf, she'd weigh over 532,000 pounds. Even still, awakened Thor couldn't do much against Hela, whether it's a one-on-one or with Valkyrie and Loki at his side. The same Thor who just a day later, and after a pummeling from Thanos, could curl the weight of 72 million tons. While brute force worked against the likes of Iron Man and Hulk, it fell short against Hela. Similarly, Thor brought down what he called
the biggest lightning blast in the history of lightning and did nothing.
Earlier in the film, Thor struck the Hulk with a lightning-packed punch that did much the same as when the Green Giant ate a blow from Mjolnir. Mjolnir has aided Thor in plenty of feats, and once allowed Thor to summon a storm large enough to encase New York. Assuming this storm covered all of New York City, which has an area of over 300 square miles, aka 784 million square meters, and is at the peak depth a cloud can be, around 1,000 meters, Thor must have used 862 kilotons of TNT through Mjolnir. Seeing as awakened Thor does not need Mjolnir, and is capable of performing feats that required the upper limits of the hammer, including destroying a section of the Rainbow Bridge with 12 strikes from the hammer, compared to just one awakened Thor slam. This would mean awakened Thor could probably hit as hard as 10.3 megatons of TNT. But a casual attack from Thor isn't quite the same as one the self-proclaimed god of thunder called a lightning blast beyond lightning blasts. If we were to say that his upper limits are somewhere around 1,000 times more deadly than this casual feat, it would mean Hela could endure 10 gigatons of TNT, enough energy to flatten a couple large mountains. While we can throw calculations around all night, we have to do something I don't like to do when it comes to power scaling: using statements. After taking Asgard for herself, she entered Odin's trophy room and mocks a fake Infinity Gauntlet, as well as calling the Casket of Ancient Winters weak. This was a device capable of covering planets and potentially realms in an eternal winter. Assuming this means encasing a planet in a shell of ice, we can attempt to calculate just how powerful this casket is. If we assume the ice shell is roughly 2.5 meters tall, just so none of those goddamn tall people get away from the icy suffering, we can use that distance with the radius of Earth to determine the scale of 3 spheres. Sphere A is Earth's volume, which, based off of its 6.37 million meter radius, would be worth nearly 1,100 quintillion cubic meters. Sphere B uses both Earth's radius and the assumed thickness of the shell, 2.5 meters, clocking in ever so slightly larger than Sphere A. The difference between the two is our third sphere, one that's hollow, with its hollowness being where Earth would have been. This third sphere is the volume of just the ice, a space worth nearly 1,300 trillion cubic meters. Using this equation, E equals mct, where m is the mass of the object being changed in temperature, C is the specific heat capacity, and T is the change of temperature in the object. The object we're talking about, of course, is the air being altered into a state of ice, aka a solid. The air we breathe is 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen. With this in mind, we can use that to determine volume with both respective densities, a little over 1,100 kilograms per cubic meter for nitrogen, and just short of 16,000 kilograms per cubic meter for oxygen. Air is normally 20 degrees Celsius and becomes a solid at negative 210 degrees Celsius, which would make our T a change of 196 degrees. Nitrogen has a specific heat capacity of just over 25,700, with oxygen having one at nearly 14,000. Plugging both of these back into our initial equation and accounting for the percentages they normally take up of the air, again 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen, we find a total energy requirement of, get this, 4,170 teratons of TNT. Energy this big could be focused into a blast powerful enough to obliterate a continent. That is leagues ahead of her brother's greatest feats. Similarly, it is greater than the feat Surtur pulled off at the end of Thor Ragnarok. How do we account for this mistake? Well, it's likely that Surtur was able to overcome Hela since she wasn't actively trying to hurt him at the time she was stabbed, and the fact that Surtur blew up Asgard, which, if you didn't know, is her power source, and the longer she's there, the more powerful she becomes. To my knowledge, that since Surtur destroyed her power source, she just wasn't able to keep up. But besides that, is she a threat to Thanos? Well, come back next week as we finally cover the true might of the MCU's Mad Titan. Until then, I hope you enjoyed your stay at Honor's Place. If you want more, you can find the previous video here, as well as the whole playlist for How Strong Is Season 3. Feel free to hit that big red subscribe button and the blue like button to show your support. See you guys later. Bye bye.